You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Excited you could join me today, as always, on our Friday review. And I'm happy to hear all of your feedback from last week where we started our brand new format. It wasn't too different from our typical Friday reviews, but really going after it with the, what's new, what's happening now in my practice, what's been going on just the past literally couple of days and what's coming maybe next week. Then we go over a piece of research or a life hack that I have for you. Not a biohack, but a life hack, things that you can do right now to get more out of your life, feel more fulfilled. And then going over a product review or maybe a book that I'm reading right now that I have to share with you that you need to be reading on your own. And then, of course, right? Our super nutrient of the week. Each and every Friday, I'm bringing you some herb or vitamin or mineral or amino acid that you need to know about so that if it comes up in your own life or family, friends, coworkers, or your PCP or doctor says, oh, there's no research behind that, we're giving you the research. We are showing you that all of these things work. You just have to know the time and place essentially to use it. That's why, when you see a study saying, oh, well, fish oil is really, really beneficial, but not in these cases. Well, yes, of course, because if the person was deficient in omega-3s, well, that's when they need omega-3s. But if their omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is already great, well, guess what? They don't need omega-3 supplementation, or they don't need to keep really focusing on the omega-3s in their diet. So life is all about balance, all right? Not moderation. It's about balance. Moderation has nothing to do with it. It's all about balance. So literally where equilibrium nutrition came from, right? It comes from equilibrium. The name came from many hundreds of books that I've read, especially the ones in the early 1900s, that talked about something called dynamic equilibrium. It's a bioregulatory term that stands for the body is always in a state of flux, always trying to maintain balance. And that balance, we refer to it as equilibrium. Others refer to it as homeostasis. It's the body's innate response to always bring it back to level. And again, you put the food in your body, okay, now that's creating oxidative damage. And so now your body's using antioxidants to squelch free radicals and all of these different things at the same time, trying to essentially keep you alive, keep you healthy, keep you strong. So that's really what it's all about. One of the what's new, what's happening this week is that over this next week until, I believe, May is a 31-day month, until the last day of the month, we are giving away our omega-3 support bottles. Literally, this is a $49 bottle. It's a legit, the best omega-3 supplement on the market. There are others that are comparable. I'm not saying that. But you will not find a single capsule that contains more EPA omega-3s in it, all right? And why EPAs? Because as a clinician, I get to see hundreds and thousands of labs come through my practice. And when people run the omega-3 lab, we can actually see most people are more deficient in EPA rather than DHA. And I did a whole podcast on this month, so check that out if you want for the super nutrient of the week. Just a few weeks ago was EPA and DHA. Feel free to just go to stephencabral.com/podcast. That will teach you a lot about why during pregnancy and young infants, they need more DHA, right? Because we're trying to help with neurological development. Then now that you need both the EPA and DHA, but as we get older, we become less efficient, it seems, at converting DHA to EPA, or the body just needs more in that specific molecular form. So again, we're giving away free bottles of omega-3 support with any omega-3 lab purchased. You can go to stephencabral.com/store for details on that. And while I'm talking about the website, we have a brand new store coming for you next month, literally next month. If anybody's ever created a website before, you know what a painful process it is. It's a fun process, but it's extremely painful. Back and forth with the web designers and the coding and this and that and choosing the graphics. And it's a lot of fun. I love all of it. I really do. I just enjoy all of it. I enjoy the whole field. Now, if it had to do with something that I didn't enjoy, if it wasn't anything to do with, natural health, well, then it wouldn't be as fun to me. But when you can create something from scratch and you try to make it a little bit more user-friendly, meaning like we know that people come back every month to repurchase or whatever it might be. So we're just taking all of your feedback. People want an immediate add to cart button. So we're doing that. We're doing navigation now. So for the very first time, you'll be able to search by adrenal. You'll be able to search by thyroid, by children's, by immunity. It's pretty amazing. So like really excited. All the things that I wanted in a website that if I were to ever build, that's what we're doing. So it's custom coded. It's a brand new website just created for us. There's no real template involved in it. And the other great thing about it is that I'll have my book on that website as well. And what else? Well, I'll detail more obviously next month when it does launch. And stay tuned for that because of course, I'm going to have some type of fun pop-up, I'm sure, with that as well, just because obviously I love doing these little special offers. Having said that, amazing feedback. Thank you so much for your feedback on the version 3 of the CBD oil. We've now had, I would say over 500 bottles people have purchased and really enjoyed. They've given their feedback to us and obviously enjoyed the product before. It's the same exact thing. It's 25 milligrams of cannabinoids per dropper. Only this time you're getting more of the full spectrum benefits, which means that there's so much crossover with the anti-inflammatory, balancing healthy levels of inflammation in the body. There's the potential anti-cancer benefits. There's the anti-anxiety. There's the help with sleep. There's the help with skin rashes and hormones. All of those things that I talk about on the podcast. So I'll do another CBD oil benefits podcast in the future and how it's being used as anti-cancer, anti-anxiolytic, which obviously I talked about that before. Again, go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and you can just type in CBD and you can see those. But really, you can just go to the store page and click on the actual CBD product. And on that, it's really a detailed page of what CBD is all about, not trying to just say, oh, here's the product, you can check this out. It is detail oriented to say the least. Okay, so that's that. And the other thing was my 100 signed copies of the book went so much faster than I thought. I'm excited. I did 100 autographed copies. I hand autographed all of them in my Boston practice, in my Boston office, and we mailed all of those out individually. So it will be coming separate from your order if you did order from the store. Obviously, you ordered from the store and you got the book as part of that. So those are all gone. And thank you everyone who popped in for that. That was a lot of fun. But that's it. That is what's new, what's going on for this week. We're obviously really busy with new applications coming into the process. I'm booked out now for a couple months. However, what we're recommending is that you do meet with one of my amazing health practitioners, always understanding that I'm going to be reviewing your lab. You'll still get my recommendations. Like just today, I reviewed 20 labs with my health coaches. So yeah, that's always exciting to be able to do that. And, just again, really excited to be able to work with you more in different capacities in the future. And obviously, hopefully training more of you to take back control of your own health, whether as a health coach or for your own family, kind of as that person in September when we do launch the upcoming certification. All right, so what's new with my research this week? What do I want to bring you? Well, here's one thing I wanted to talk about. This is huge, and it's because I'm out to dinner quite a bit when I'm traveling, and I'm enjoying, meals with whether it's someone putting on an event, and they might be an entrepreneur or a business owner, and then a lot of times I'm out with other colleagues in the health field, whatever it might be. And people are asking me, like we're always talking food at dinner, those types of things. What are the best foods? It's this and it's that. Well, one thing I like to tell people, and because they're looking, even the people in great shape are often looking to kind of take their body to the next level, but also decrease anxiety, all of those things. So a lot of people, they don't share that with you. They're not as open about it. But the truth is that most people, literally, when they're eating food, they're unconscious. They are literally unconscious eating. That's just what I call it. I'm sure it's been called it that before. They don't even think that they chew the food twice and they swallow it basically whole. The problem is it greatly disrupts your stomach, meaning that it asks your body to produce a lot more stomach acid than it's really supposed to. And that's because your food should be pretty well chewed, especially if we're talking proteins, beans and meats and fish and eggs and all of those things. And one of the things that they looked at, this is a pretty recent study. It's from the Iowa State University, and I will quote it right now, so you can look it up for yourself as well. But one of the things that I always like to help people with, and it's one is digestion, but the other is just helping them to improve their satiation at a meal. A lot of people do anxious eating, right? So they're always hungry even after the meal. And a lot of people are not able to keep the weight off because they always feel like they need to eat. So one thing the Iowa State University, their research study showed is that those people that increased, so they called it double the amount of the time you chew food. For most people, that's going to be about 30 chews. That would be double the amount. So we tell people that if you're chewing your food, put it in your mouth and try to chew it. Literally count for 30 seconds or 30 chews. That will take you maybe like 15 seconds, right, to chew the food 30 times because you're probably chewing like twice per second. All right. So it said, this is directly quoted, by doubling the time you chew your food, it gives your brain time to register that you're actually eating and that you're getting full. Now, we've seen this before in quoted research that it takes about 15 to 20 minutes from when the food goes into your stomach to when your brain's going to get the signal, okay, we're full. So the slower you eat, typically the less food you will eat at that meal and the more satiated you will become. But if you swallow all of your food whole, I call it swallowing it like a seagull, because I grew up a lot of times when I was younger, going this tiny little cottage, no insulation, no anything in Maine, but we loved it. It was our favorite place in the world to go to. And I still go up there to this day because so many happy memories there. But we had these seagulls literally right outside of our cottage. And we would put all sorts of just food out there and whatever. And they would swallow the food whole. Like, it was amazing, right? But humans are not seagulls. We don't just burn it up in our stomach acid. We need to chew the food. That's why we have teeth, right? We have teeth. We're meant to chew up all that good produce and break it down and swallow it. So anyway, the study went on to just say that people of a normal weight, in air quotes, I guess, that they take typically 20% longer to chew their food than those who are overweight. And the goal is to shoot for no more than 3 forkfuls per minute. So basically, a bite of food in your mouth, chew it up for 15 to 20 seconds, somewhere around 30 chews, till it's a paste. Really, that's what you should wait till the food turns into a paste, and then swallow it. This isn't quoted in the study, but I have 2 things about this. One, I work with people all the time in my practice. One of the reasons we do smoothies for breakfast is because it gives them back a tremendous amount of energy. The reason is no real digestion is needed. Well, if you're chewing all of your food to a paste, again, you're basically blending it up in your mouth. It leaves you with so much more energy. And the reason it does that is that you don't need to divert a lot more energy to your stomach for digestion. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The other thing is, if you were to, and the average is, again, people are decreasing their meals by about 15% by doing double the chewing. So if you eat 2,000 calories a day and you're trying to transform your body, maybe you're trying to lose weight for the summer, whatever it might be, and you decrease 15% of your 2,000 calories per day, that literally equals 350 calories. Now, you do that with some increased exercise and eating better quality food, you could easily drop 1 pound a week minimum. I mean, so that would definitely add up. That's just one thing. And so some nice research. I do hope that even if you're not overweight or you're not trying to lose weight or whatever it is, that you do take it to heart to chew your food more, put that fork down, a nice normal bite, chew it up to a paste. All right. The third part, product review. So product reviews, I like to also use a lot of research. I do that in my practice because a lot of times in natural medicine or natural health, we get the bad rap, which isn't true, all right? Not true for most practitioners, is that it's not research-based. You're just kind of going by, it's like some old wives' tales or something like that. But that's not the truth at all, meaning that there's literally research on all of the things in natural health as long as the practitioner is a science-based approach. Now, again, I don't use science-based in the term like everything needs to be proved by science, because if you just look back a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, you go back 50, 60 years, we didn't even have blood tests for half the stuff we test for now, right? And so just keep in mind, our science catches up with a lot of what we already know. And I talked about that in the fitness industry, meaning like nowhere else in the world, like the fitness industry is at least a decade ahead, probably 2 decades ahead of what's being done in actual personal training studios and athletic training facilities all over the world than what's in textbooks. It always is, because the top practitioners are seeing what works, tweaking it, making it better, and then eventually a textbook gets written, right? That's kind of like the funny thing about it. I wrote my book on fitness, and that was in 2011 or so. And that was, so I had been training clients since about 1997 or 8. Okay, so I wrote that, 13, 14 years after I had started training already. I mean, so, and again, like I'm obviously just one person, and I learned from amazing people like Mark Verstegen. I learned from Mike Boyle. I learned from Juan Carlos down in Boca Raton, Florida. So like so many great people when I was coming up, I learned from them and Alan Cosgrove and a bunch of other people. So essentially what they're doing though, what everyone's doing is always way ahead of textbooks. And so that's why we have to be science is great. And I use it every single day in my practice. I read research literally every single day, but let's not say everything has to be proven yet, because I know that so much works in clinical practice that we don't yet have that clinical data on, just because no one's funding things that can't always be patented. But what I want to give you today is 3 or 4 essential oils, all right? I don't talk a lot about essential oils, but I will in the future because a lot more people are asking about it. So I'm happy to talk about those things. I did a lot of my study previously, this is about a decade ago, in things like essential oils, Bach flower remedies, and I'm happy to talk about those as well. So, okay, couple essential oils that will help with hair growth. Why am I talking about hair growth right now? Well, a few people have now been asking, can you do a show on how to make the hair thicker, how to stop baldness, those types of things? And I'm always obviously going to do my best. So I want to give you 3 essential oils today that have been scientifically proven to help with hair growth and thickening of the hair as well. Okay, so the first one's bergamot oil. And so bergamot is one of those, basically, I look at it as kind of a mutated lime. That's always how I think of a bergamot when I see it. It's essentially a citrus fruit. I believe it originates from France. I'm not positive about that, but I do know that the bergamot oil does come from the rind of this fruit. Again, it looks like a lime that's all bumpy. That's essentially what it looks like. And it's world renowned for helping to reduce inflammation. And now they're finding that it helps to promote hair growth and a healthy, balanced scalp. So one of the reasons when I talk about a healthy, balanced scalp is that you do need the terrain. Like you need the terrain, which would be your skin, the skin of your scalp, to be healthy as well. And so bergamot has a really nice antimicrobial effect on the scalp as well. Another oil that I'm a fan of and been a fan of for quite some time, the last couple of years, is jojoba. It's pronounced, or it looks like jojoba, but pronounced jojoba. And jojoba oil, it's a seed-based oil, and it's used, so the reason I first learned about this is that it makes for a great moisturizer. Now, typically by itself, it has like this very high viscosity. So it's like really like a slippery based oil, but it's usually mixed with things like argan oil and other oils because it contains essentially the same thickness and texture and oil as our own sebum, as our own oil-based glands. So this is a great one. It adds a lot of tone to the scalp. It's been shown to help the hair grow faster. And placebo-based studies against jojoba, it's shown that the people who use the jojoba oil, their hair grew faster than those who did not. So a nice little study, and these are all very healthy things. I'll talk about how to use them in just a moment. And then peppermint oil. This could be any oil with menthol, though, okay? So peppermint, most people know about peppermint and leaf and all of that. Well, we're taking the oil extract, okay? So in studies, they were able to look at peppermint oil to increase the thickness of not only the hair and the follicles, but the scalp itself, which is interesting in itself. So meaning like it plumped up the skin of the scalp. And for the most part, if the skin is then retaining a little bit more moisture, that's how I look at it, or a little bit more of its own natural essence and oil, that's going to be in a terrain conducive to growing better hair, which hair in this case would be almost like the fruit or the vegetables, right? On the terrain, that's what you're looking for. So you want to create the right conditions. That's what really growing good, healthy hair is all about. Making sure that your body is not at a lack of anything. It's not at a lack of proteins, because that can be catabolic. It's not at a lack of zinc and of selenium. It's not a lack of copper, all of your minerals, right? It doesn't lack any of the antioxidants, because you'll see a lot of these things do better when there's also vitamin C in the body, because vitamin C is a powerful antioxidant, because oxidative stress can also cause hair loss. So it's all of these things are very important. We look at also, like we look at a thyroid adrenal hormone test. If you're losing your hair, there's no better test in the world than to run a thyroid hormone adrenal. And then after that, you would run a hair tissue mineral analysis. But number one's the thyroid hormone adrenal. And the reason is that your thyroid, if it's low or high, remember, high thyroid towards Graves is high stress in the body. And low thyroid is just synonymous essentially with thinning hair of the eyebrow, eyelashes, and the hair on the head. And then high cortisol can also cause hair loss as well. So I didn't plan on getting that today. Sometimes I just can't help it. I want to give you more and more information. So we have those 3 oils. But then I also, you remember, you need a carrier oil. I'll be talking about more about essential oils in the future. And one of the things that I would use for a carrier oil for the hair is sesame oil. So in Ayurvedic times, they always use sesame, always sesame. And the reason was it contained higher levels of copper, which is antimicrobial for the head. It can kill fungal overgrowth on the head, which could lead to things like alopecia. Now, that's not the only reason for that. I've talked about that before. Sesame oil is a great one. You could use olive oil, or you could also use avocado oil. Avocado oil, which is higher in vitamin E and C, we'll be talking about that in a moment, can be great for the scalp as well. A lot of people know about coconut oil and how it's been used in Ayurvedic times for thick hair. But avocado oil is very, very greasy. Not a great carrier oil. I like the more of the monounsaturated, or maybe a little bit more towards the polyunsaturated, as long as it's not cooked with the sesame oil. So typically use 2 to 3 drops of essential oil in about 1 tablespoon of the carrier oil, avocado, sesame, olive oil. There are others as well. People use grapeseed oil. So not grapefruit seed extract, but grapeseed. But what you want to do essentially with these is that by massaging them into your scalp, I would recommend doing it before bed. And the reason I recommend before bed is that you can cover your head if you want, or you'll be able to let it sit there for 8 hours or 10 hours. Maybe you're getting ready for bed. You're just hanging out on the couch. Well, put it in, and then you could towel dry your head if you want. Go to bed, and then you could wash it out the next morning if you wanted to. I don't think washing your hair on a daily basis, I can't turn this into a whole hair show, I will do that, is very healthy for your head. I think it is too drying for the scalp. But by massaging it alone, it helps with circulation. Circulation is one of the great keys that most people have forgotten about to a great healthy head of hair. So again, 3 oils, you get your carrier oils, you can start with that, just massaging it gently into your scalp. It's just so first of all, it's so relaxing before bed. There's that, but there's also the ability to thicken the hair and regrow new hair. So I'll do a full show on how to combat hair loss, the different reasons for hair loss, what you can do about it. All right, I will do that absolutely in the future. Now I want to move on to my super nutrient of the week, which is vitamin E. And we haven't talked about vitamin E yet. It kind of gets overlooked. There are many different forms of vitamin E. There's the alpha tocopherols, there's gamma, there's delta, and then there's what's called the tocotrienols. And so what I look for with all of these forms of vitamin E is that we are getting a good, healthy mix. So for example, the tocopherols, again, you might have your own pronunciation. It's Tocopherol, tocopherol. And main one that we know about is D-alpha tocopherol. I like a mix, okay? And I like a mix of tocotrienols, because the tocotrienols are essentially, you look at that as almost like CBD oil, right? It's the full spectrum, and it helps vitamin E to be a more natural substrate in the body. So we're not using the exact extract, but we're using that along with more of its full spectrum friends. And the tocotrienols basically are isomers as well. So I'm going to talk about the benefits in a second, but they prevent cell adhesion. So when you prevent the cells from clumping together, and again, I don't do it as much anymore, but I do it still sometimes. I have this big electron microscope in my office, and for about a half a decade, I would actually look at everyone's blood under the microscope, but it takes a long time to do all these things, but absolutely amazing. And so what I would see is something called red blood cell rouleau, or we would just call it blood sludge. Very lovingly, we would call all those cells sticking together. Well, what vitamin E can do with the mixed tocotrienols, it can actually help to disperse those. Soak in things like lemon juice, or, like literally all of those things, right? They can help. But what we're trying to do is disperse that so we don't get the hardening and thickening of the arteries that we refer to as atherosclerosis. So if there's like a stellar standout for what vitamin E is great for, it would absolutely be for balancing cholesterol. If someone has high cholesterol, taking 400 IUs of vitamin E a day, probably a good idea. Does the average person have to go out and supplement with extra vitamin E? No, not necessarily. Remember, supplements are to supplement what your body is not balanced in at this moment in time. So I will use that in my practice if needed for people with higher levels of cholesterol. Because remember, we're trying to balance healthy levels in the body. Now, why would this work? Well, because vitamin E is a very powerful antioxidant. So if we combat oxidation in the arteries, well, there won't be as much inflammation, right? And if there's not as much inflammation, well, then what happens? There's not as many nicks and tears and cuts in the arteries. Well, what happens if there's not as many nicks and cuts and tears in the arteries? Well, we don't have as much of a need to patch up the arteries with cholesterol and calcium and all sorts of different types of plaque. So when you look at it from a true root cause, which is what I just did there, you can understand that cholesterol always has a reason why it might be high in your body. Now, that's only one of the about half dozen reasons why someone can have high cholesterol. But remember, there's only half a dozen reasons. That's it. I've done a whole show on high cholesterol. Check that out if you do have high cholesterol or you know someone that has high cholesterol. All right. What else is vitamin E great for? Well, it rejuvenates damaged skin, whether it's from the sun or just aging, as well as what I like to say, stretch marks. All right. So you can actually apply vitamin E oil right to a stretch mark if you'd like, but really you need to be taken internally, all right? Because you need to build up those internal stores. So it can help with eczema and acne and stretch marks, flaky, dry skin. Someone could be low in vitamin E for that for sure, or scars in general. Vitamin E will help with that, all right? Combats free radicals and prevents dis-ease. Your body needs enough of vitamin E. It's one of the many powerful vitamins. It does actually help with a little bit of phase 1 detoxification, but what it does is it helps to prevent that oxidative damage, right? The free radical damage, which causes the breakdown of cells and rapid aging in the body. So we need vitamin E. Like, it's not something that would be nice to have. It's a daily essential. Okay. My fourth one for you is that vitamin E helps to balance hormones, especially with any type of PMS-based symptoms. So let's just say a week or so before you get your cycle, day 1 of menstruation, you get cramping, or you have any type of anxiety or low mood or cravings, lower levels of vitamin E in the body. I'm not talking about deficient. I'm talking about functional low levels. So it won't show up necessarily in a blood test, but your body's functionally deficient in vitamin E, which means that when you put the vitamin E as it uses all of it, could use more. That's it. That's essentially what we're looking at. Really, really important for hormones as well, men and women, but especially for that, what we would say that estrogen dominance. All right, improving eyesight, right? Improving eyesight, vitamin E, one of those antioxidants. Your eyes essentially are very, very susceptible because of the small capillaries to oxidative damage. So we're always talking about lutein and zeaxanthin, and we're talking about vitamin E for the eyes and vitamin C. Super essential. I've talked about eye antioxidants before. You can literally search that. You can search anything by going to StephenCabral.com/podcast and just type in your keyword right there, like zeaxanthin, right? It's ZEAXANTHIN. You can search that out. Okay. Vitamin E boosts energy and endurance. One of the things that it's shown to work great for is that, well, it improves circulation, right? So it's one of the reasons why it improves the cardiovascular system as well. It improves circulation. So love that. It's an antioxidant, helps with recovery from sports and stress in general, right? Because sports are stress in the body. I like that there's a lot of research showing right now that not only can adequate levels of vitamin E, I don't want to say high levels, but adequate levels, balanced levels, right? It's all about balance. Balanced levels of vitamin E can help prevent cancer, but it can also help with the unwanted side effects if someone's going through chemotherapy, radiation, or any type of conventional cancer-based treatment. And the last one is that it seems that when vitamin E is combined with vitamin C, it's helping to prevent or stave off Alzheimer's. Pretty amazing, all the research there. Why Alzheimer's? One of the reasons that we have the plaque buildup is from inflammation. Inflammaging, as we call it, blood sugar issues, and then also free radical damage in the brain. Well, vitamin C, very powerful antioxidant. And vitamin C, a lot of people don't know this, it's a recycler of vitamin E. So if you take vitamin C with your vitamin E, guess what? The vitamin E works better and it works longer and stronger. So you can get your vitamin E from sunflower seeds, almonds, hazelnuts, mangoes, avocados, butternut squash. I'm talking about orange fruits here, right? Broccoli, spinach, kiwis, and tomatoes. And you need about, well, really the only ones that's going to get you enough vitamin E for the day would be the sunflower seeds, almonds, hazelnuts. That's about it, okay? The rest you would need to eat like 4 mangoes, 4 avocados, about 4 cups of butternut squash, about 6 cups of broccoli, 8 cups of spinach, like 10 kiwis. No, but it's not the only thing, right? But those are the ones higher in vitamin E. Honestly, this is what I always recommend to people is that using, I know obviously I stand very, very strongly behind this, but you can use your favorite functional medicine brand. The daily nutritional support has 100 IUs of vitamin E in that. It's enough in addition to food. Remember, I'm not a big super high supplement guy. I don't love the mega dosages of supplements in the long term. I will use them in the short term for sure to fill up those stores over 3 to 4 months. But then I like just a normal level and then you get the majority of your nutrition from food. So I look at the daily nutritional support shake as kind of like your safeguard, like it just makes sure you get all the nutrients for the day. But remember, you can take higher dosages of vitamin E as needed for any things that I just mentioned, especially cholesterol based. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link up some of my favorite brands that I trust, brands that I recommend that are functional medicine brands of vitamin E today. So just simply go to StephenCabral.com/840. StephenCabral.com/840. And I will link up everything right there, whether it's the thyroid adrenal hormone test, whether it's the vitamin E products that I recommend, the daily nutritional support. I'll link up links to the 3 types of oil I recommended. Everything will be right there. Thank you so much for tuning into another Friday Review. Always a good time for me to bring this information to you, and be back tomorrow when we go through our weekend house calls where I answer all of our community's questions. Take care and have an amazing weekend. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.